What is up, guys? So you probably already know, but the next big crossover in the Arrowverse is called Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is adapting the crossover from the comics of the same name. This is an event that is considered to be the biggest thing that the DC Universe has ever done. It brought together basically every single superhero that existed in the universe, as well as a large amount of villains, and brought them together in this multiverse-changing event. The Arrowverse's version of it will probably not be as big in scale and will not include as many characters because of budgetary reasons and the fact that some actors are probably not going to be available or won't want to return, but I still think that this crossover should and probably will have a lot more characters than previous crossovers, considering the threat to the multiverse. And there are certain characters who I think should be like, maybe have cameos where you see them in the background a little bit, maybe in costume, and you can't really see the actor, just to have them there, know that they're there, just to make sense. In this video, what I will do is go over every single character who I think should or will appear in this crossover, regardless of the budgetary restraints or the restraints on certain actors not being available, or even the restraints on Warner Brothers not allowing the Arrowverse to use certain characters. I won't include characters who don't exist in the Arrowverse, but I will include basically every character who I think should and probably won't, but maybe some of them will appear in the crossover. And I'll do in sections. I'll talk about characters from Arrow, then the Flash, then Supergirl, and then Legends of Tomorrow, and etc. Anyway, let's start this video with characters from Arrow. So the characters who I think should appear from Arrow include Oliver Queen, who's basically going to be the main character of the crossover, along with Barry Allen and other characters as well, like Kara Danvers. Anyway, there's also Renee Ramirez, Dinah Drake, Roy Harper, John Diggle, who I think should probably change his name to John Stewart at that point and hopefully become a Green Lantern, which would be beyond awesome. Thea Queen, who should return from her Lazarus Pit quest and become Speedy again, also returning with Nyssa Al Ghul. I also think that Nyssa's sister Talia should help out in this fight. Rory Regan should return to being Ragman, maybe getting his powers back for this crossover, or maybe another version of the character from another Earth. Curtis Holt, it makes no sense for him not to appear because it's not like he left the world. He's in Washington, D.C., and there's no reason why he wouldn't help out. Laura Lance from Earth 2, who is also in the multiverse, so it wouldn't make sense for her not to help out. She's obviously going to. Ben Turner, who I do think would be pretty awesome to see him in the crossover. Katana, who we haven't seen in a very long time, but again, it doesn't really make any sense for her not to help out because she's still around, she still has her abilities, as well as Harbinger, aka Lila Michaels, who I think will have a big role in the crossover, because in the comics, this is actually where she originates from. She's the Harbinger of the Anti-Monitor. She is pretty powerful, and that's where they use her in the Arrowverse. They have these two characters who are married, John Diggle and Lila Michaels, who are essentially the Green Lantern and Harbinger of this universe, and they're so much more powerful in the comics than they are here. So I do think that Lila Michaels will most likely have a big role in this crossover, or at least a lot bigger than she's had in the entirety of the Arrowverse up until this point. On top of that, I think that Deathstroke should definitely return for this crossover, and I think that it will be pretty disappointing if he doesn't. I think his son Jericho, or Joe Wilson, he's never been called Jericho, but he can be, should also return, maybe act as a hero. And finally, Ted Grant, aka Wildcat, who disappeared without a trace for no reason, and no, he didn't die, he's still alive. He should return just maybe to help out a little bit. So the characters from The Flash include Barry Allen, aka The Flash, who will also obviously have a big role in this crossover as one of the main characters, and this show is the show that's been teasing this crossover by far the most ever since the first episode where they teased the 2024 Crisis, which turned out to be the 2019 Crisis. Anyway, then you also have Cisco Ramon, not Vi, because he got rid of his powers, which is pretty bad timing because he really could have been useful in this crossover considering his multiverse abilities. Anyway, there's also Caitlin Snow and Killer Frost, Ralph Dibny, the Elongated Man, Wally West, who should return from wherever he is for maybe just this last time as a Kid Flash, Reverse Flash, aka Yu Barthon, who will undoubtedly appear in the crossover as either a villain or maybe helping out against the Anti-Monitor, because while he hates Barry Allen and he is a villain, I doubt he wants the entire multiverse to either be destroyed or whatever else they're doing there, which maybe he doesn't mind the entire multiverse combining into one, I don't really know. Then you also have Jesse Wells, aka Jesse Quick, the Flash from Earth 3, Jay Garrick, who, although he is retired, I see no reason why he would still not help out. Also, the female speedster he's training over there on Earth 3 should definitely appear as well, whoever she is. There's also Barry Allen from Earth 90, considering his role in Elseworlds, he will also undoubtedly appear. You also have Gypsy, aka Cynthia Reynolds, who has the same powers as Cisco, so maybe she can be very helpful. And from the same Earth, you also have the Accelerated Man, and maybe they can introduce other Batman Gotham by Gaslight characters, because that is the world that they have there. That's where Accelerated Man is from. You also have King Shark, who became kind of an anti-hero, maybe even a hero in the recent Gorilla Grodd versus King Shark episode of The Flash. And speaking of Gorilla Grodd, Solovar and maybe the rest of the gorillas could definitely help out as well. From Supergirl, we have Supergirl and Superman, and I really want to see Superman interact with Lex Luthor, who is also going to appear in this crossover. You also have Martian Manhunter and Miss Martian, Guardian, Alex Danvers, Dreamer, and the entirety of the Legion of Superheroes, which consists of Brainiac 5, Mon-El, Saturn Girl, Chameleon, Lightning Lass, and I think 4 other characters. We know that Dream Girl exists in the universe, actually 5 other characters. We know that Neonal has a descendant named Neuronal, who is Dream Girl. There's also Lightning Lad, who exists in XS's future. There's also Mon-El has some sort of relationship or friendship with a guy named Val, who would be Val Armor, aka Karate Kid, which leaves 2 members left, which I think should be Cosmic Boy and Phantom Girl, and I really want to see the Legion of Superheroes as well as all these superheroes appear in this crossover. And of all of the shows, I think it looks like Supergirl would give the most characters, mostly because of the Legion, but also just because they have a lot of great superheroes who I think it would definitely be awesome to appear in this crossover. So, from Legends of Tomorrow, we have White Canary, the Atom, Citizen Steel, Behrad, who is the brother of Zari. Because of that whole timeline change, he became a member of the Legends of Tomorrow. And considering that the first episode of Legends of Tomorrow Season 5 will actually be a part of the crossover, it doesn't seem like Zari will have any part in this crossover at all. You also have Heatwave, John Constantine, and as much as I'm not really looking forward to this, it wouldn't make any sense for Mona Wu or even Charlie to not appear in this crossover. I also think that it would be kind of cool for Hawkgirl and Hawkman to appear, maybe a little less annoying. Maybe they can write them better in the crossover. I definitely would not be opposed to that at all. It wouldn't really make any sense for them not to appear. They still have their powers. They're still out there, so they should appear. On top of that, they should bring Jonah Hex into this some way or another. And the 2 Vixens, because of another timeline change they had back in Season 3, Kuwaza and Mari both became Vixen. I don't really know how that works in the timeline, but those 2 should definitely appear in this crossover as well, and maybe even a Maya Jiwe. I definitely would not mind that. I think there should be some time travel here where characters from the past and from the future are brought to the present day to help out, and I definitely think all those characters should help out, and there's no reason not to. In terms of characters from Batwoman, there is obviously Batwoman, aka Kate Kane, who will undoubtedly appear. There's also Luke Fox, aka Batwing, who I don't think will really become Batwing until Season 2 or 3, but if he does, then that would be really cool. If he does before the crossover, then it would be definitely really cool to see him. There's also, I think that this crossover would be incomplete, and it would be really weird if they don't bring in Batman, aka Bruce Wayne. One, it wouldn't make any sense for him not to appear, because even though he left Gotham City for some reason, either his back is broken because of Bane, or he's emotionally broken or something. If his back is broken, then that's fine, but I think that other than that, there's no real reason why Batman wouldn't help out in this crossover when there's this thing threatening the entire multiverse, or at least the entire world. There's also the fact that it would be really weird to have this big DC universe where you know a character exists in Batman and he doesn't appear. The other crossovers are fine, but for this one, I think he needs to appear. Obviously, there are others like Aquaman and Wonder Woman and Cyborg and Green Lantern, who it would be really weird to have this big DC Universe event without them, but at least we know that Batman exists, and there would be no reason for them not to include him in this crossover, and I think it would be a great time to introduce him. Then there are certain characters who are introduced in crossovers and not in any specific show. There is characters from Crisis on Earth X, where we got to see Earth X, where we got to see the Freedom Fighters. I think that the Ray, Citizen Cold, Red Tornado, Black Condor, Phantom Lady, and Dollman should all be appearing in this crossover, and characters from Elseworlds, like obviously you have Psycho Pirate and the Monitor, who will definitely be appearing in this crossover. I did mention that the 90s Flash is from the Flash, and just because he's a Flash and I included him there, but if I didn't, he would definitely be here in the Elseworlds category, or maybe characters from that universe. And also, if the Monitor's test on Earth 90 was really only a test and none of those superheroes actually died, then that entire superhero roster should definitely be helping out in this crossover. Other characters include the Anti-Monitor and Shadow Demons, who are characters from the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover comic book, who we know are going to appear. There's also characters who we know exist as characters, but we don't know if they exist as their superhero counterparts, like Jim Corrigan, who would be the Spectre, Michael John Carter, who would be Booster Gold, Ted Kord, who would be Blue Beetle, and Nabu, who would be the Herald of Dr. Fate, who would be Kent Nelson, aka Dr. Fate. If they were to appear, then that would be awesome. For Spectre, Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, Beetle, and Dr. Fate to appear in this crossover. There's also characters from Black Lightning, which is a show that I think should be connected to the Arrowverse in this crossover. Then you would have Black Lightning, Thunder, and Lightning, and I'm not 100% sure if there are other superheroes in that show. Anyway, obviously this is incredibly unrealistic. They cannot afford this. There are a lot of restrictions in terms of the budget, which actors they can bring back, and the things that Warner Brothers don't allow them to do. But this is basically my wish list. I don't expect any of these characters to have a big role except for like a handful of them, but obviously I would love to see these characters in the background in some sort of cameo like role. But there are only like maybe 10 characters who should have a big role in this crossover. So obviously 80 characters, which is the amount of characters I just mentioned, is way too much. To make it more realistic, I trimmed it down to like 25. I think that 25 characters is enough to bring together the entirety of the Arrowverse, with the other 55 characters or so being way more in the background. But I think these 25 characters, plus the Shadow Demons and the Anti-Monitor, would be enough to be the forefront of this crossover. Those characters being the Green Arrow, Black Canary, Arsenal, Green Lantern, Harbinger, Deathstroke, The Flash, Killer Frost, Elongated Man, Kid Flash, Reverse Flash, Supergirl, Superman, Lex Luthor, Martian Manhunter, Brainiac 5, Mon-El, Saturn Girl, White Canary, The Atom, Citizen Steel, John Constantine, Batwoman, Batman, and the Monitor, as well as the Anti-Monitor and the Shadow Demons. This is basically the Justice League and the villains that I want to see in this crossover, at least in the forefront. I would include others like Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, but I'm not including them in this shortened list because we don't really know if they exist or those versions of those superheroes exist. So these are the characters who I think should be at the forefront of the crossover. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.